The Vandal is one of the most fun weapons to use in Valorant. But is it any good? I will not be comparing Vandal with the Phantom, because that's a topic for another day. Today, the spotlight is for Vandal and Vandal alone. Let's get into it. We're going to look at the most important stats that you will actively feel in game. Things like running speed, equip time and reload speed are all the same for every single rifle, so there's no point to talk about them. A lot of diversity there, right? The Vandal has a peculiar fire rate of 585 RPM or 9.75 rounds per second, which is lower than any other automatic weapon in the game except for Bulldog, which has an even more peculiar fire rate of 548 RPM. I will not be covering spread, because I have already done so in another video. Check that out by clicking the card in the top right of the screen. Let's talk about the mag size. The Vandal has 25 bullets. That isn't that big of a deal by itself, but the major issue is that it only has 3 reserve mags, which means that it only has 100 bullets in total. That might sound like it's enough, but if you spam walls and if you spam smokes, you'll run out of bullets quite fast, a lot faster than you'd expect. That means that you need to be a lot more conscious about when you are supposed to spam and when you are supposed to conserve ammo. Another big disadvantage of the Vandal is that it's unsilenced, which means that the enemy will see your traces when you're spamming through smokes, which can give away your position. However, the Vandal has one nice aspect that makes up for many of the shortcomings. It can one-tap from any distance as long as it's a direct headshot, aka no shooting through walls or run ability. If you decide to use alt fire or right click or however you wanna call it, you suffer fire rate and movement penalties. Those penalties are quite severe, so I would not recommend using alt fire all that much. The good part, however, is that you get a 25% zoom and the spread is decreased by about 40%. The only time I recommend using alt fire is when you're holding a long range distance, such as screens to ramp for example on split. Now let's talk about some things that the game doesn't tell you, because who cares about clarity after all, am I right? Minimum kill time. I want you to focus on shielded enemies, because it's a lot more likely that you have to deal with these instead of the unshielded ones. So basically if you are spraying their bodies, it takes about a third of a second to kill someone, which is really slow, unless your spray is on point and you don't miss a single bullet. It will always take 4 bullets to kill someone if you don't count in wallbangs and you don't get a headshot after the second or first bullet, in which case you obviously shorten the time that it takes to kill someone. These numbers alone are what prompt me to recommend you that you don't spray with the Vandal unless it is absolutely necessary, especially since the recoil is very aggressive on the rifle. I will instead recommend that you adopt a more burst or tap oriented style, as it fits the gun a lot more. Okay, so bursting or tapping. Got it. If the gun still feels hard to control, then I introduce you to recoil recovery time. I'll put a photo with some gibberish on the screen which says a lot of technical stuff that basically says that you need to wait for your crosshair to recenter after you shoot in order to be accurate again. You might have noticed that I highlighted gun recovery time. That's because that's the statistic that you should care the most about. Also, this photo was taken from some very old patch notes because the wiki doesn't have the information, the game doesn't have the information, so we gotta work with what we have. Thanks, Riot. As I was saying, the Vandal has a recovery time of 0.375 seconds. That's how much it takes for your gun to reset and be accurate again. The more you fire above this threshold, the more inaccurate it will become. This is why you should limit yourself to only 2 to 3 bullets burst, because when you're bursting, you're actively going over this limit, and if you don't give the gun enough time to reset, you will likely lose the control and you will end up losing many duels. A lot of duels. The general rule is that as long as your crosshair is centered, no longer moving, that's the green light for you to shoot. Of course, that's without mentioning the movement penalties and such. Okay, so now you know everything from a statistical point of view about the Vandal. When to use, how to improve. You can use the Vandal at any time really, because even with all of its shortcomings, the one-shot potential is not something to be ignored. However, it does excel in one aspect. If you have to enter a side that is a bit more open, like Breeze, wait, I've said side, not an entire map, like B on Icebox, then the Vandal is going to be in its best shape, because you have long sidelines that you have control over, and that's when the Vandal shines, when you have long sidelines that you can take advantage of. But other than that, the gun is quite consistent in what it does, so don't be afraid to pick it up, even if the distance on the map isn't that big, it will still serve you well. Now, how to improve using the Vandal. Play def, play spots where Vandal excels, such as Breeze, Icebox. Oh, there seems to be a theme going around here. Heaven See Long, split A or B side, basically spots where you can use the Vandal to its maximum potential. You mainly want to focus on actually getting down your gun mechanics, like getting used to bursting, getting used to spraying only when you have to, and of course getting used to tapping when the situation arises. You can also do that in deathmatch, by the way. Thank you for watching, have a nice day, bye.